Alrighty, so today I am going to do part 1 of the review of match week number 24, and then I'm going to do the same thing I did last week where I'm going to split the review into 2 parts. And in the first part, I'll look at the first half of the game, and then in the second part, I'll look at the second half of the weekend's action. Because, you know, if I was going to do a 14-game review of this, expect this to be a 2+ hour video. I mean, this was a crazy week of MLS action, probably right up there in terms of the Heineken rivalry week that we saw in July, of just absolutely chaos in almost every single game. And also, if you like goals in an MLS game, this week was a wet dream for you, because there were not only so many goals that was scored, there was so many 5 goals, 6 goals, and even 7-goal thriller that happened in each of these games. But it actually broke the record for the most goal ever scored in a match week, with 57 goals that was scored in a match week. But we start off with the first game, and the first one is the only game that did not happen on Saturday, which is the Vancouver Whitecaps versus the Houston Dynamo. And I think this game kind of set a tone of what kind of week we're going to have, because this was a game where it was very similar to the one between Columbus versus Montreal, where, you know, there was an early goal that was scored, and for the majority of the game, it looked like the team that got the early goal was going to hold on to get the victory, and then they give up 2 late goals to basically drop all 3 points. And I feel like for the Dynamo in this game, this one hurts even more than the one that Columbus suffered, because the goals that they conceded late in this game probably shouldn't have happened, and that they really let this one slip out of their hands. But in the first half, like I said, you know, they actually got a dream start in this game, as Fafa Pico would score from Junka to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. Though Gall looked to quickly tie it up for the Whitecaps, but he puts that one high. Quintero then fires it wide from a long-range effort before Gresso puts a volley that goes high, and then Pico drill one into the side netting, as it was a very promising start to the first half with chances on both ends. But little do we know that that was really the only chances that we would have in the first half, as the rest of the second part of the first half was not very exciting, and hence that was why I didn't really wrote down a lot of notes. But we do head to halftime with the Dynamo leading 1-0, and in the second half, Cavallini looked to tie it up again for the Whitecaps, but he fires it high from close range. Though Cropper did have to deny an Overson, and he had to make a big save there too, because a full stretch save to push that one onto the post on Overson's shot. Clark then denied Gresso from 12 yards out, and like the first half, you know, there's been chances for both teams, as, you know, both of them were looking for that next crucial goal, and that this looks like it was one of those typical games where the game is on a knife edge, and that whoever is going to score the next goal is going to really determine how the result of this one. Cavallini tried to score that next crucial goal, but he hits it high from close range. But then in the 88th minute, that next goal did come, and it's the Whitecaps, the one that gets the next goal, as Simon Beecher scores his first career MLS goal to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And yeah, this was a very scrappy goal that the Whitecaps have scored, and probably shouldn't have happened if the Dynamo actually clear their lines. I mean, how many times I've talked about how when you don't clear your lines and you let that ball dangling in the box, you're basically asking to get punished. And Beecher was the one on the benefit of the fact that the ball was dangling in the box for so long, and he eventually just kind of tapped it in for his first career MLS goal. But there was no doubt that that goal really sparked the Whitecaps, because, you know, not only the fact that they were happy that they finally got the equalizer, but they feel like they're not done. They smell blood, and they want to get all 3 points. And in the second minute of stoppage time, they looked like they got that, because the Whitecaps would take the lead in that moment, as Cavallini would score from Veselinovic to give the Whitecaps a 2-1 lead. But again, this goal probably shouldn't have happened if Steve Clark actually did a better job in terms of saving this, because yeah, I feel like this is one that Clark should have done better, and that, you know, Cavallini basically hits it right to Steve Clark. And while that was a powerful full shot there from Cavallini, the quality of Steve Clark, and really just, if you want to be an MLS goalkeeper or MLS quality goalkeeper, that's one that you think that it should be saved. And especially with Steve Clark also making some big save for this team this season, that's one that he definitely wants to have back. And it would turns out to be a costly one with them now down 2-1. But again, you know, this week it's not a normal week, because you know that there's going to still be late drama, and we almost had a late drama in the third minute of stoppage time, as Hector Herrera actually decided to go on his bike, but his effort only goes to Cropper, and he actually connect that one well, and Cropper had to hold on to trying to not allow a rebound and allow the Dynamo maybe score a scrappy goal of their own. But yeah, in the end, the Whitecaps were able to come from behind to win 2-1 in this one. And the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 9 that the Dynamo has. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 7 shots off target for the 3 that the Dynamo has. Both teams had 2 shots out of block, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Whitecaps has in this game. And in a week where, you know, I'll talk about later how all those teams that is in that logjam between 3rd all the way to 10th, which right now, between all those spots, I think there's like only a 5-point separation between 3rd through 10th right now in the Western Conference, and how there was a lot of team doing that logjam that either dropped points or actually lost this week. The Whitecaps were one of the few teams that was able to get a win, and that's huge because now that they are not only back in the playoff race, but they can definitely be looking a chance to trying to rise up the table really quickly because of how tight that Western Conference playoff race is. But that cannot be said about the Houston Dynamo, and I feel like this is a game that not only it's a crushing loss for them, but you just feel like this maybe is the game that can say that, well, they're probably done this season. I mean, they are kind of falling back at a rapid rate, and especially not winning a lot of games lately, not in the best form. Yeah, it just feels like this is probably not going to be the season for the Dynamo to make the playoff push, which we kind of expected that this season. We didn't think that this team was going to be a playoff team, but you know, if you're a Dynamo fan, it will be kind of frustrated the fact that they were hanging in there for a very long time, and now they're starting to see the usual Dynamo drop that we always see them go through in the second half of the season. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got Atlanta versus the Seattle Sounders, and this looked like it was a game where both teams was going to split the points, which, you know, depending on who you ask, it might be a disappointing result or a good result. Well, I think it may be a disappointing result for Atlanta United because, again, they need to get wins if they want to get themselves back in the Eastern Conference race, and they got exactly that. And little do we know that we probably might have just seen the goal of the week that have scored in this game, even though I know there's a lot of goal of the week contention. Like, when you have a crazy week like that, it also makes it difficult for a lot of people to vote who exactly is going to win goal of the week with just so many golazos that score. But, you know, anytime when Atlanta United score a golazo, you know most likely they're going to win with the way that they love to stuff the vote of that and bang their chest in terms of being proud to win the goal of the week. But anyway, in the first half, Fry did deny Cisneros from close as the flag went up. But in the 23rd minute, Cisneros would score here as he scored from Araujo and Wiley to give Atlanta a 1-0 lead. Now, this kind of took a deflection off of Nuhu, and, you know, it was kind of a fortunate deflection, but hey, Atlanta wouldn't care. I mean, they haven't had a lot of luck this season. They get one here and give them a 1-0 lead. Though Rodon tried to respond quickly for the Sounders, but he puts it way high from long range. Then Morris actually struck the post on the header, and all of a sudden, the Sounders were pushing for the equalizer. Like, you know, this team, they still have some very dangerous weapons on the attack, and they were looking to try to tie it up before halftime. But Moreno did have the last chance before halftime for Atlanta as he drive one wide from close range, and we head to halftime with the host leading 1-0 over the Sounders. Now, in the second half, Fry had to make an amazing kick save and a very unconventional kick save to deny Araujo. But in the 68th minute, that kick save that Fry, of course, made turns out to be big because the Sounders would get the equalizer. It's Christian Rodon scoring to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and knowing momentum is on their side, they were pressing to try to get a second goal. Rusnak trying to do so, but he fires it high on the volley. Again, the momentum is with the Sounders as they look to try to steal all 3 points on the road. Rios Novos then denied Rui Diaz from close range, so second consecutive game we've seen Rui Diaz coming off the bench in this one, and that maybe is a sense that he's getting close in terms of being back to full fitness and full 90 minutes that the Sounders desperately hope that he will be in the future. But as the time winds down, I really thought that this game was kind of started to be a little bit slow paced, and that it feels like both teams would just settle for a draw. And again, it looked like this one was going to end in a 1-1 draw. That all changed until Andrew Gutman decided that, yeah, he's going to score an absolute golazo to save Atlanta United's season. And he did in this one as he scored from Moreno to make it 2-1 in favor of Atlanta. I mean, he was, I think that not only the fact that he scored that amazing goal, also, he was in shock. The fact that he scored that like that was just an absolute amazing goal, and a goal that, again, I think it's going to be not only the goal of the week with a question mark, but probably will win goal of the week, knowing that Atlanta fans love to stuff the goal of the week contention ballot box. But yeah, in the end, a huge win for Atlanta United to not only save their season, but now all of a sudden back in the Eastern Conference race, or back in the Eastern Conference playoff race. As the shots in this one, 10 shots clear to 14 that the Sounders had, 5 shots on goal to 4 that the Sounders had, 3 shots off target to 5 that the Sounders had, 5 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 49% possession compared to 51% possession that the Sounders has in this game. And yeah, for the Sounders, a brutal loss in this one. And that, you know, the only good news for the Sounders is that at least they're still above the red line. And again, a lot of that is because pretty much all the team around them either lost or drop points. But again, you can definitely sense that there is maybe started to be some concern and some frustration that, well, you know, this second half resurgence that we see the Sounders go through every single year, it is not kicking off, and that we're now down to the stretch where it's got to happen because, you know, again, I feel like with a lot of the team in the Western Conference race that have dropped points, you know, while it was a frustrating week for them to lose their game, I think they're probably very happy the fact that other team around them dropped points too, and that they in some way they kind of got away with one despite by losing the game. And that's the case with the Sounders, where, you know, they're very lucky and feel like they got away with it, with them somehow still above the red line in that 7th position. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is Charlotte versus the Chicago Fire. And speaking of teams that is now above the red line, the Chicago Fire is above the red line. And if you would have told me that a couple of weeks ago, or even if you told me that back in June when they were sitting dead last in the Eastern Conference, I think everybody would have laughed at me. But, you know, that's how a season can change in a flash. I mean, if you can go on a good run, even if you're sitting dead last in the standings, you know, you can definitely get yourself not only back in the playoff race, but eventually getting above the red line. Now, obviously, that doesn't always happen, and hence this is also the reason why, you know, when I talk about some teams in the Western Conference that are way behind in the playoff race, I mean, you know, I said their season is done because unless if they do something dramatic like what the Fire did in this one, yeah, it's probably not going to be the case where they can get themselves back in the playoff race. But again, for the Fire, you got to give a lot of credit to Ezra Henriksen team, where it feels like they finally figured it out after they gone through that brutal month of May and June where they just could not get anything going. Now, in the first half, though, it wasn't the best of start for the Fire in this one, because just 38 seconds in, Jordy Reyna, for the second time this season, scoring in the opening minute of the game from Jalen Lindsay to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. And again, early on, it looked like Charlotte was on their way to get all 3 points, because we know this is a very good team when they're playing at home, and that looked like that early lead means that, yeah, looks like Charlotte is in for all 3 points again in this one. Though, besides that one good chance that Charlotte has in the opening minutes, neither goalkeeper really have been trouble and been tested, though that changed in the 17th minute when Kalina denied Shabilko on the doorstep of goal. But in the 21st minute, Shabilko was not going to be denied, as he gets on the score sheet here, and I think this is the first time he's got on the score sheet in a couple of months. I mean, it's been a long dry spell for Kasper Shabilko, and really this also feel like it's kind of a redemption game for him too, because, you know, he's been giving a chance to start to try to get his starting 11 spot back after he lost it to John Duran. And now, you know, for Ezra Henriksen, there's going to be a big decision that he's going to have to make of the fact that, well, now Shabilko is producing and Duran is not. So who exactly do you choose in terms of being that number 9? Though, after the Fire was able to tie the game up, they quickly take the lead, and in the 24th minute, they did exactly that, as Navarro, which scored from Shaqiri and Torres to make it 2-1 in favor of the Fire. That the fans at Bank of America Stadium was in stunned silence. Like, you know, I know they have seen Charlotte basically implode before in that game against Inter Miami, but they have not seen that happen a lot at home, and it was pretty much a stunning kind of situation to see the Fire, who looked like they weren't going to do much in this game, and now all of a sudden they have the lead and has the advantage. And it looked like they almost made it 3-1 if it wasn't for Kalina denying Shabilko as he went for one goal. I mean, Kasper Shabilko, I think he scored 2 goals in this game, though he could have had a hat trick with the amount of chances that he has in this game. But I'll give Shibilko a break because, like I said, he's been ice cold for the last couple of months, and it feels like this is a statement game for him to get his starting position back. Kalina, oh, actually I said that already. And again, in a blink of an eye, Chicago has the momentum, and they were pushing for that third goal, though Salina did have to deny gains from close range. But then in the 45th minute, Charlotte would tie the game up, and it's actually Swiderski, the one that scored from Bender after originally, I think this was given an own goal by the MLS scorekeeper that Navarro basically scored in his own net. And I feel like, yeah, that kind of took a slight deflection, and that I also thought that was classic Fire defense where, you know, there was some miscommunication at the back, and somehow in some way that one found in the back of the net. But overall, I think they changed it because they feel like that deflection didn't really cost the shot that was coming in off that deflection was on target. So, you know, they give the goal for Swiderski, even though I don't know if he knew that was awarded to him, because like I said, it was originally count as an own goal. But yeah, the game was all tied up at 2 apiece, and also, you know, that play, you just think if you're a Fire fan, you know what's gonna happen. You've seen this story so many times where you can have hopes of this team, and then they do something like that, and all of a sudden they can just implode in the second half. But that was not what happened, because in the second half, despite a promising start for Charlotte as they were looking to retake the lead, Kasper Shibilko would get on the score sheet here. This time from Shaqiri to make it 3-2 in favor of the Fire. And, you know, talk about Shibilko having a revitalized game. How about Xherdan Shaqiri? He really now started to kind of figure out, and it feels like Shaqiri form has really reminiscent of the Fire revamp in terms of what we've seen in the past couple of weeks, where you know, he's been a guy that has been looking like the Shaqiri that the Fire was thinking he could be when they pay hefty amount to get him. And yeah, he's just been a musician, almost at the same level. Well, I wouldn't say at the same level as Carlos Hill, but almost close. So that with just so many lethal kind of passes to set up his teammate game after game. And yeah, he did it again in this one to give the Fire the lead back. And then he trying to get on the score sheet, but he puts it wide from close range in the 60th minute. And I thought the turnover and lack of fight on the defensive end by Charlotte was evidence in this game. Like, there was just so many turnover that Charlotte was committing in their own end, and also whenever they had to defend, there was not a lot of defending that they were doing in this one. Though one thing that also happened in this one is some heated exchange for both teams, because in the 66th minute, there was a tempers flare that happened as there was pushing and shoving from both teams that all started when Shibilko and Gaines were having choice words, and I'm pretty sure they weren't talking about what they're going to do after this game is over. And then 6 minutes later, there was more pushing and shoving, as again, the emotion definitely heats up, and you know, you would have been forgiven the fact that this, even though this is the first ever meeting, doesn't seem like that, because both of these teams look like they're trying to get into each other's faces, and it feels like a rivalry game. Though that being said, as the time did wind down, Charlotte did try to push for the equalizer, but you know, Chicago doing very good, structurally organized at the back. Swiderski tried to tie the game up, but he puts it wide on the volley. Mueller tried to iced it, but is denied by Kalina, and you know, that was a big opportunity missed for Chris Mueller, another guy that has been in form with the Chicago Fire, and a guy that ever since he signed with the Fire, this has been quietly one of the best signings we've seen so far for this season. But like I said, you know, that miss, and with the Fire holding on to just a 1-goal lead, we've seen it so many times this season, especially from this match week. Is it going to come back to haunt them? Well, thankfully it didn't, because they were able to hold on to win 3-2 in this game. But that was without some chaos that happened late in this one, as there was a chaotic moment for the Fire when the ball was kind of stuck in their own half, and Swiderski were looking to try to take advantage of it, but he heads that one high. And yeah, in the end, the Fire was able to hold on to win 3-2 in this game. And the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 12 that Charlotte has, 5 shots on goal for the 8 that the Fire has, 3 shots off target for the 2 that Charlotte has, 5 shots that was blocked for the 3 that the Fire has, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. And like I said, a huge win for the Chicago Fire in this game. Like I mentioned, how this is kind of like a playoff 6-pointer with both teams kind of battling for those playoff spot and the Fire was able to not only win that playoff 6-pointer, but now for the first time since early this season, they're now back above the red line. But for Charlotte, a brutal loss this one was, especially in front of their home fans, which is something that we have not seen them do a lot so far this season. In fact, this is the first time that they actually can see more than 2 goals at home with them. Previously only conceded 2 goals, I think twice. One of them, of course, was against a loss against Montreal, and there was another game that I don't remember. They also conceded more than 1 goal, but we know this team is very good at home, but it definitely wasn't the case in this one with the Fire able to take them down on the road. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, we have FC Cincinnati versus the Philadelphia Union, and it's very rare that I actually wear the same jersey, both preview and review, as I actually wear this FC Cincinnati jersey in part 1 of the preview, looking at the first 8 games, and I'm wearing it again because this was probably the best performance we have seen FC Cincinnati not only play this season, but maybe in their franchise history. I mean, from beginning to end, and especially in the second half, we saw a Cincinnati team that looked like a team of destiny, and looked like a team that can take on anybody in the league. I mean, when you look at this game and how they just completely throttled the Philadelphia Union, like the Union, this is a team that doesn't get torn apart often, and especially the defense this season for the most part has been excellent. That was not the case in this game with FC Cincinnati, as they was just overwhelmed throughout this game, and especially in the second half. Now, in the first half, Brenner tried to give the host a 1-0 lead, but his shot was deflected wide for a corner. There was then a huge shout for a penalty for Cincinnati that was not given before Jose Martinez had Philly's first opportunity, but he missed wide from long range. Costa then hits one right to Blake on the free kick, and I thought it was kind of an even start to this game, as both teams had some half chances, and also it's a game to basically tells you that, yeah, these are 2 very, very good team in the Eastern Conference, even though one of them is at the top of the standings and one of them are just barely in terms of being above the red line. And then in the 25th minute, Glesnes did blast one high on the free kick from 26 yards out before Barrial puts one right to Blake on the free kick. And you know, again, with these chances that was coming in, you had a feeling that first goal shouldn't be long before it happened, especially how chaotic we'll talk about in terms of some of these games. I mean, with so many chances, you would think that goal would come soon, and it looked like it did, because Brenner would put it into the back of the net, and then it wasn't a goal by Brenner and for FC Cincinnati, because VAR look at it whether or not when Brenner basically dived that one into the back post, whether did that actually hit his hand as he was heading that one, and the answer is yes. And I think and it is the right call, because when you basically decided to head it down on the ground and then it hits your hand on the second attempt, and that has some, that basically directed it into a goal, then yeah, that of course is not allowed, and that exactly is the case in this one, where Brenner basically heads it down, and then as that thing was bounced on the ground, it hit his hand and redirected into the goal. And that, yeah, that was kind of something very Thierry Henry kind of as well. Actually, no, that, I don't know what I'm talking about. That was a completely different kind of handball. But yeah, overall, you know, in that play, you can tell that it was pretty clear that it was the right call. The goal was disallowed, but certainly not according to the Bailey, because they basically rang out the BS chant. And again, I don't think they actually show the replay of the VAR play. I think there are some stadium around the league where they actually don't show the replay of what the referee are looking at. I feel like that should be something that they should do, because, you know, we see in other leagues where fans get to see the replay or a challenge whenever a team decide to do so, and I feel like they should just do that in MLS, so maybe the fans can get a perspective, because in this case, you know, definitely like Cincinnati fans didn't see it, and you know that the BS chant basically was ringing out. Though some will argue that they will still say that chant even if they show on the replay, because that's just how the crowd acts, especially with the goal being disallowed. But that being said, the game, we do head to halftime with the game tied at 0-0. But in the second half, Bizo puts it wide from long range before in the 50th minute. You know, we talk about the chances that was coming in, and especially from Cincinnati cases, came so close to get the opening goal. Well, it didn't take long for them to get the opening goal, as in the 50th minute, guess who? Brendan Vasquez scoring from Barriel to make it 1-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati, continue his case that he could be the guy to be leading the line for this U.S. men's national team in Qatar. But Uru did try to answer it for the Union, but he hits that one wide, and I thought the game started to kind of open up, and both teams was going quickly on the attack. And then in the 55th minute, Cincinnati would take the 2-0 lead, as Brenner, who of course was denied in the first half of his goal, he wasn't going to be denied here, as he scored from Acosta to make it 2-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati. Though on the other end, the Union almost instantly equalized, or well, not equalized, but more like instantly respond after conceding a goal after there was a mix-up at the back by the Cincy back line, but it did not cost them in there. I mean, this Cincy back line, I think this was arguably the best game that they play. And on the day when Matt Miazga was actually attending this game, I think you knew that the Cincinnati back line had to be at its best, because, you know, a lot of these players, you know that they're playing for their starting spot, and especially with Matt Miazga coming in and be a regular starter for this team, you know that back line is hoping they're not the one that basically will be dropped down the pecking order in favor of Miazga. So they really play hard in this game to try to prove to Pat Nolan that they should be staying in the starting 11. Though in the 58th minute, there was a chance for 3-0 as Acosta went through on goal, but unfortunately he hits it straight to the, or actually no, he didn't hits it straight to Blake. I actually read it wrong there, but he actually struck the post there. And again, I also thought that, you know, Cincinnati, they were really killing the Union, especially on that right side. Like, the Union was giving acres of space for Cincinnati to work on the right side, and that they were just getting pulled apart every time when Cincinnati attacked to the right. McLean did try to get one back for the Union, but he fires it high over the bar. Blake then denied Vasquez on the doorstep of goal before Hagelin had a chance to make it 3-0, but he puts that one high on the header. But then in the 70th minute, FC Cincinnati finally got that third goal, and what would look like was the dagger for this game, as Barriel puts that one in to make it 3-0 in favor of the Union. And TKO Stadium was in a party atmosphere. I mean, it was already in a party atmosphere when that first goal that was scored, but it was definitely in a party atmosphere because they were on hand of seeing probably the best performance I think Cincinnati has ever played in their franchise history. Though that party atmosphere was kind of subdued in the 77th minute, because Aronson would score for the Union to get them one back from Corey Burke to make it 3-1 in this game. And then McGlynn trying to make it even more interesting, but he fires it high as all of a sudden I thought, you know, the Union was having the momentum, and maybe Cincinnati was being a little bit too much and putting their foot off the gas a little bit too soon. Because if there's one thing we know about the Union, is that they can score goals in a quick bunch. In the 87th minute, Burke's trying to set up a grandstand finish, but he missed one on a long range effort. And in the end, Cincinnati hold on to win 3-1 in this game against Philly. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 15 that the Union has, 7 shots on goal for the 2 that the Union has, 4 shots off target for the 11 that the Union has. Both teams have 2 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 48% possession compared to 52% possession that the Union has in this game. And like I said, what a win this was for Cincinnati, and to finally end this drought that they kind of been through. Because, you know, as good as Cincinnati has played this season, and even in these last couple of games, they've had trouble in terms of getting wins. They've been drawing way too many games, but to finally get a win, and especially getting a win at home, which is something that they also have struggled this season, it has to be a huge relief. And let's see if they can, of course, build that momentum heading into the next game. But for the Philadelphia Union, I mean, all good teams are going to have a bad game, and this was just one of those where they just got absolutely overwhelmed by a much more resilient Cincinnati team that just wanted more in terms of all 3 points in this one. And also, I forgot to mention the fact that, and I can't believe it took me this long to mention, but, you know, certainly congratulations to Harris Medunian, and certainly wish him the best in of his future in Denver, as this was his final game. I mean, they did make a great tribute in the beginning of the game, and I don't know if he actually made an appearance in this one, which I kind of wish they should have, because, you know, why not give him or start him in this game and then maybe sub him off later and get like a farewell, just similar to what Tati Castellanos did when he played in his farewell game against Inter Miami that NYCFC had just a couple of weeks ago. But I can understand maybe they just thought that we'll just do a ceremony in the beginning of the game and basically just kind of calls it that. But anyway, you know, certainly congratulations to Medunian on a great career in MLS, and maybe I might even do a video talking about a very underrated career in MLS during his short time with both the Union and also with FC Cincinnati. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games, or the last 4 games, in terms of part 1 of the review for match week number 24. So moving on into the next game is Columbus and NYCFC, and now we started to get to some of these games that feature 5 goals, 6 goals, and even 7 goal thriller that we saw throughout most of the games that happened in match week number 24. And in this one, it was very important for Columbus to win this game. I mean, it looked like for a while that maybe this was a game where the Crew was going to have to settle for a draw at home, and it would have been very disappointing considering they just dropped way too many points so far at home, even doing their unbeaten run and just drawing way too many games. But in the end, they come out with the win in this one, though it wasn't the best start for them, as just 3 minutes into this game, Jonathan Mensah unfortunately scored an own goal to give NYCFC a dream start in this one. And this actually kind of took an unfortunate deflection on a Magno shot, where this was just kind of one of those where when a shot comes in, a defender trying to block it, and you just hope that when he blocks it or deflect that one, it doesn't redirect to a goal. And unfortunately for Jonathan Mensah cases, when he basically tried to block this one and took a deflection, it basically redirect back toward a goal, and Room was just getting completely caught out by that. And yeah, NYCFC takes a 1-0 lead, even though they were kind of very fortunate to get the opening goal of this one. Though in the 6th minute, Room did deny Pereira from close range, and NYCFC definitely off to the better start. It looked like maybe NYCFC had finally found something on the attack after it was pretty much AWOL in terms of the last game, and maybe we'll start to see that NYCFC is starting to find their stride, that maybe they don't really need Tati Castellanos as a guy to just continue to prove that this team could be an MLS Cup contender. Though unfortunately that would be kind of all the good things that they would have, at least in the remaining of the first half, because in the 20th minute you knew he was going to get on the score sheet. And actually, before that, Cucho did have a chance to get on the score sheet, but he puts it wide from long range. But, you know, after just almost a couple of weeks without scoring a goal, you know Cucho, of course, was going to get it. And he scored here from Diaz, and actually not Hernandez here. I don't know why I wrote his name twice. Well, first and last name there. It was actually a goal from Cucho from Luis Diaz there to give him or give the Crew the equalizer. And not long after, they got the lead in this one as it's Zarian turn to score again. I mean, Lucas Zarian has been in hot form, and it started to look like the Lucas Zarian that we saw with the Crew, especially during that MLS Cup run. But here he scored from Diaz to make it 2-0 in favor of NYCFC. By the way, you know, Diaz in this game, I believe he did end up with 2 assists, but I believe in the 75th minute, as I will talk about what would be the winning goal for Columbus, I think that he also was on the assist chart on that, even though MLS didn't recognize it. And if he actually did get the assist chart on that, that would be a rare hat trick of assists, which again, you know, that's something that I don't think it's appreciated as much, because, you know, we always talk about hat tricks of goals, but hat trick of assists actually doesn't happen often, and Luis Diaz almost did in this one, with him already getting 2 assists inside just the 7-minute period, when the Crew was able to turn from a 1-0 deficit to a 2-1 lead. Though that being said, I will say that, you know, the goal that Zarian scored, yeah, it was not a great moment for Sean Johnson. Like, he basically gave this one right to Luis Diaz. And overall, it was not a great week for a U.S. men's national team goalkeeper, because I heard Zach Steffen also commit a howler in his debut with Middlesbrough, and here, you know, with Sean Johnson, looked like he was he is maybe now in pole position. Well, actually not pole position, but maybe in the second position in terms of being the starting goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team. This is definitely one that's not going to help his case. Like, he just gave the trait to Diaz, and that, yeah, the crew was able to punish the mistake that Sean Johnson made, which is something that I think this is the first time we have seen him make a mistake like that. But in the 35th minute, Room did rob Pereira from point blank before Zarian fires one just wide from 22 yards out. And I just feel like this game has that MLS After Dark energy. And this won't be the last time I'll talk about an MLS After Dark energy that's around a game. In fact, please do not make a drinking game in terms of this video, and also in part 2 when I talk about MLS After Dark kind of energy, because, yeah, I'm not responsible in terms of if someone potentially have to go to the hospital or maybe even pass out because of how many times I'll mention MLS After Dark kind of energy, because there was a lot of that in almost every single game that featured 5, 6, or 7 goal thriller. And again, it was very back and forth. Cucho almost scored his second goal and almost give it a third goal for the crew, but he struck the post after, again, another terrible giveaway from NYCFC. But we do head to halftime with the crew leading 2-1. Now, in the second half, Room denied Acevedo from close range, as I thought NYCFC was on the front foot and they were looking to dictate plays and look for an equalizer, which is exactly what they like to do. But you know, for the most part, the crew did do a good job in terms of not allowing too much chances. Though that good defensive display was broken in the 64th minute when Pereira would score from Rodriguez to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And again, this one came off of deflection. I mean, you know, the Columbus crew has to feel cursed in terms of all these deflection going. Almost are trying to ask Charlotte fans of how to cope with in terms of seeing their team giving up deflection goals, even though they probably should be leading in this game big. Though, that being said, they actually almost find themselves being 3-2 down when Room make an incredible save, robbing Morales after just another giveaway from Columbus. And again, both teams, it seemed like they also were decided to be playing who can give the ball away the most. I mean, they're just, again, like another game where not only defense was kind of optional at times, but also defense decided that they're just not, they're gonna just turn the ball over and not and are being very loose whenever they try to play it out of the back. And it just feels like maybe is this going to be one of those games where the winning goal might come because it's just a brutal turnover. Though in the 68th minute, Johnson did deny Zarian from long range, but then in the 75th minute, Zarian would score, as he scored here to retake the lead for the crew. And that was pretty much it, because for the last 15 minutes, despite you would think maybe NYCFC was going to push for that equalizer, it never did, because the crew did a much better job defensively in the last 15 minutes. And in the end, the crew with a crucial 3-2 win and a bounce back 3-2 win after having their 9-game unbeaten streak come to an end in a brutal way against Montreal in the last home game. But the shots in this one, 16 shots for the 13 that NYCFC had, 6 shots on goal for the 5 that NYCFC had, 7 shots off target for the 4 that NYCFC had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that Columbus has in this game. But for NYCFC, you know, yes, they did score 2 goals in this one, but one was off a deflection of a defender that ends up into the back of the net, and then the other was also a deflection goal. And that, yeah, you know, there is definitely, I wouldn't say just panic level yet from NYCFC fans, the fact that, yeah, this team clearly doesn't look the same without Tati Castellanos, especially on the attack. But there's definitely got to be a lot of concern, because this is 2 games in a row where none of those attackers that are supposed to be guys that can step up on this team, yeah, they have not stepped up in this one. And it started to show why maybe Tati Castellanos was really simply keeping a hold of what was a very fun NYCFC attack to see throughout this season. But that being said, moving on, in terms of the next match, we got DC versus the New York Red Bulls. And in a week where there was a lot of chaos and there was a lot of goals that was scored in the game, This was not one of them. In fact, this was probably the outlier of what was a crazy week in MLS action. And you could also argue this is probably the most boring game of the season, because judging by the fact that I didn't really put a lot of notes in this game, just tells you the story that there was nothing that happened in this one. And I think for anyone that actually watched this game, or even any neutral that watched this game specifically, yeah, my sincere condolence of wasting 90 minutes of your life that you probably won't get back, because of how both teams decided that they weren't even going to show up and just play to a dull 0-0 draw. Now, early on in the first half, the Red Bulls were on the front foot, and it looked like, I thought it was another slow start for DC, and it looked like they were going to get manhandled in this one, because, you know, the Red Bulls were going with their usual press. DC, unsurprisingly, like many teams, had struggled to play out of the press. Though, again, not much chance to speak of, as the shots were only 2-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. The first real opportunity came in the 24th minute when Cornell denied Smith from close range. Harper then pulls it wide from long range before there was a miscommunication at the back for DC, but Barlow just could not capitalize that one, and he actually got a piece of that, but unfortunately he wasn't able to get a clean piece in terms of poked it into the back of the net. And we do head to halftime with this game ending scoreless. In the second half, you know, you're hoping, well, we've seen boring first half before in MLS. Maybe second half will pick up. Nope. Lucanias with fires at way high in the 56th minute, and again, not much happening in this game, as not only this game has been incredibly tight, but it just feels like both teams feel tired coming into this one. Like, they, you know, this might be a rivalry game, and this might be an Atlantic Cup game, but just like the rivalry's sake, which, you know, these last couple of years, there's a reason why probably many people are saying this is now the most forgotten rivalry in MLS, and that those Atlantic Cup that we've seen before, that has been just such a glorious competition, those looks like it's been long forgotten with how this game plays, because after Kamala went through on goal, but only puts that one wide of the mark, and then Funtas blasted high from long range. That was it. That was pretty much all the thing I can put down in terms of the notes. And again, if anyone, of course, watched this game, and especially for the fans that, of course, attend this game, I definitely give them a huge condolence in terms of watching a game where, you know, every single game was exciting. It's just this one, nothing really happened, and that it's got to suck, the fact that if you're a fan that attend a game where everybody that attended a game must have saw a crazy game, and they had to sit through what was probably the most dullest and most boring 90 minutes of soccer I've seen so far this season. But the shots in this one, 4 shots compared to 13 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots that was off target compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had, 7 shots that was blocked compared to none that DC had, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that the Red Bulls has in this game. And again, this game was so boring that, you know, I think it's best that let's just kind of just move on into the next one and talk about a little bit of a more exciting game between Montreal versus Inter Miami, that of course did feature some goals, and in the end it actually ends in a 2-2 draw. And this again is another game I think was a classic example of what happened when you don't put away your chances and don't get that killer goal to really put this game out of reach, because, you know, Montreal, you know, they were the benefit factor in terms of the last game with the way that they hang into the game as long as possible and able to get 2 late goals to get the win. Well, it seems like they got a taste of their own medicine, because they let Miami hang it in this game as long as possible, and they were punished because of that. Now, in the first half, just 2 minutes in, Mota tried to score another golazo like he did against the Quakes, but this time he missed that one high. But then in the 5th minute, Kyoto would open the scoring for Montreal, as he scored here from Piet to make it 1-0 in favor of Montreal. And before we even dazzle of the amazing pass that Piet basically set up Kyoto here, Miami instantly responds. It's Higuain scoring from Pozuelo to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and from one good pass on one end to another great pass on the other end, where Pozuelo put a very Pozuelo MVP-like kind of ball right on a play from Higuain, and with how good of a form that Gonzalo Higuain, and the fact that he's been having a revitalized second half of the season, yeah, he's not going to miss that. He ties the game up at 1 apiece, though the game wouldn't stay tied for long either, because in the 19th minute, a penalty was given to Montreal as VAR deemed that McVeigh handballed that one in the box. And yeah, that was indeed a handball. You can definitely see his hands was outstretched when that ball hits him. And that gave Kyoto a chance to retake the lead for Montreal. And he did, as he buries that one from the penalty spot to make it 2-1 in favor of the host. Though Higuain looked to try to tie it again in the 25th minute, but this time he blasted one just high from long range. And again, the chances, you know, was definitely open, or the chances was definitely at a lot in terms of the first 25 minutes. But that all changes for the remaining part of the first half. Well, for the most part, because it started to become rare, and that both of these teams really didn't have a lot of chances for the majority part of the first half. In fact, the only other chance in the second minute, or the only other chance that happened in the second minute of stoppage time, as Toy heads it just high from close range. But Montreal was able to head to halftime with a 2-1 lead. Now in the second half, they tried to make it 3-1, but Callender was able to deny Toy from close range before Mihajlovic put one straight to Callender, and that you can definitely see that Montreal, they were looking to try to not only be on the front foot, but were looking for that killer 2-goal lead. And knowing the fact that Miami, up to that point, they were very fatigued, you would have bet that Montreal would have got that third goal. Kyoto then had a free header in the 52nd minute, but unfortunately got that one all wrong. Then Mota tried to do an Olympico goal from the corner, but that one was tipped over by Pantemis. Like, that would have been a definition of a goal scored against the run of play, because up to that point, Montreal were by far the better teams to start the second half. And as I mentioned, it feels like fatigue is starting to show with Inter Miami. Like, again, this is a game where they have a brutal kind of way to come into the fact that, you know, yes, they got a big 1-0 win against the Quakes, but they have to fly from San Jose all the way to Montreal, and that is not a short flight. It's one of the longest flight that an MLS team have to embark on, and you can definitely see that the fatigue was showing. And also, not to mention, this is the third game in just 7 days for Inter Miami. But at the same time, you know, despite the fact that there was time that Montreal can get that third goal, they weren't getting it. And you if you're a Montreal fan, you started fearing, uh-oh, we're not getting that killer goal. And we've seen what happens, especially in our last game, where even though we came on the right end of it, we've seen before what happened when teams don't kill their opponents off and don't get that crucial 2-goal cushion. And their worry came to reality, because in the 80th minute, Emerson Rodriguez, remember, this is a guy that I talked about had a horror game in the last one. Well, he ended up decided that he was going to trying to change that, and indeed he did, because he would score here to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And that was the final score of this one, as Miami, despite being very tired coming into this game, they salvaged a point of what was a good week for them. 5 points in the last 3 games, and have now got themselves once again in the doorstep of making the playoffs. But the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 8 that Miami has, 5 shots on goal for the 4 that Miami has, 4 shots off target for the 2 that Miami has, 2 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Montreal has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to the 49% possession that Inter Miami has in this game. And also for Montreal, you know, another thing that I think has been a huge problem for this team is their home form. I mean, their home form has not been very good this season, and there's times where they have just dropped points against teams that they are expected to win. An example of that is them dropping points against Sporting KC, who of course is in the wooden spoon spot, and they actually lost that one. And now playing against an Inter Miami team that you knew that they were very fatigued, and it looked like they have nothing left to offer. They give up a goal late and just let them in the game and had that belief, and they basically pay the price for that by dropping points at home, and just could not get themselves closer in terms of maybe chasing down the top 3 in the Eastern Conference right now. But that being said, moving on into the last game on this board is Orlando versus New England. And if you're an Orlando City fan, I think there's definitely panic time for this team, because yeah, this feels like this season, it feels like a very Orlando City kind of season from the first 5 years, when, you know, the first 5 years we know Orlando City was considered to be the laughing stock of the league, with the way that this team always tends to start off well, and then they just completely fall apart. And for the most part, you know, they did start well in this season, and then they kind of had that inconsistent form. and now they're getting to a level where they just simply sucked. And again, the other thing that may be panicking for this team, besides them being sucked, is that they're actually now outside of the playoff line for the first time this season. Now, in the first 19 minutes of this game and in the first half, there wasn't really much that was happening. That all changed in the 20th minute when Matt Poster scored from McNamara to give New England a 1-0 lead. That's a combination you did not expect to hear in terms of goal scoring and assists, but that's what happened here. And, you know, McNamara just played a beautiful ball to Matt Polster. And again, I had to double check, is that Matt Polster the one that makes that run? Because that looked like it was a very Adam Booksaw kind of run, and he buries that one to give the refs a 1-0 lead. And again, it was just a flat performance from Orlando to start. The attack, as the case for most part of this season, are just being stalled out in this one. Petrovic, though, denied Pato from close range, and in some way, I think they probably saw what I wrote there on the board, because instantly they started to gain some traction. In the 34th minute, Petrovic then denied Petrovic would deny Urso in the near post. You can tell I'm very tired with the way I'm doing this video right after a long day of work. But I also kind of wrote the fact that, yeah, maybe Orlando saw what I wrote earlier, because they have woken up and looked like they were trying to push for the equalizer. They had a chance to do so in the 44th minute, but Urso blasted that one into the wall, and we had to halftime with New England leading 1-0. And by the way, you know, talk about Orlando, of how for majority of the season they also have looked lackluster on the attack. That goes the same in terms of finishing too, because I feel like this is also a game where finishing was a huge problem for this team. In the second half, Torres just puts one wide from long range, but in the 51st minute, New England would double the lead. And again, an unlikely goal scored. Wilfred Captoon scoring here from McNamara to make it 2-0 in favor of the refs. I mean, who knew that Tommy Mack started becoming a Carlos Gil kind of type of player, dropping dimes to his teammate, but that's what he did in this one. Though it looked like it was going to be 2-1 in the 59th minute when Kara unfortunately struck the post from point-blank effort. And then in the 75th minute, New England makes sure that they put this game out of reach, because again, you know they probably have seen what other teams have done where they don't put the game out of reach and it comes back to haunt them. But they make sure that that was not the case, because in the 75th minute, again, another unlikely goal scored. Henry Kessler scoring from Carlos Gil. Well, actually, I wouldn't say unlikely, because this one was coming from a corner. And usually when you're a defender and you get on the goal sheet, you probably basically score from a set piece, and that was the case in this one, which was a beautiful ball delivered from Carlos Gil, and then Kessler basically with the first one to head that one in, and it was pretty much game, set, and match in this one. And there was actually chances to make it 4-0 when Brendan Byde decided to try to score a goal also, like what we've seen him done before, but he missed that one high, and that if he would have scored again, that would have made 4 straight goals scored. That, you know, if you would have thought that Polster, Captoon, and Kessler, and even Brendan Byde is going to be the guys that score all the goals for New England, I mean, that would be something that I don't think Revs fan would have thought that it was the case. But hey, at least I mentioned 3 of those 4 names got on the score sheet, and they were the reason why New England was able to win 3-0 against Orlando, and that it's safe to say that they desperately needed this win, with them having a rough patch for these last couple of games, and are desperate in terms of getting wins to get themselves trying to get above the red line in this one. But the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 11 that New England has, 3 shots on goal for the 5 that New England has, 3 shots off target for the 10 that Orlando has, 3 shots on block for the 5 that Orlando has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that New England has in this game. And as I'll make the emotion index pretty soon, probably right after when the All-Star game is going to be happening, because I don't really have a lot of time in terms of doing videos from now to when I fly out to Minnesota on Tuesday. I'll definitely talk about how Orlando City might be finding themselves at the bottom category in terms of the emotion index that I'm going to be making for the month of July. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at the first 8 games as part of the first part of the review for match week number 24. And again, you know, later on, and maybe even tomorrow, I'll do the review of match week number 24 in terms of the second part. And if you thought the first part there was some crazy game, oh boy, you're ready for a treat to see what happened in the last 6 games when fireworks basically were on this display. And that again, and I hope that if you decided to try to create a drinking game of MLS After Dark every time I mention that word, please don't, because you're probably going to end up in a hospital, or maybe even killing you because of how many times I'm going to mention with the way that in the next video there was just so many crazy games that happened in the nightcap of, well, not really just a nightcap, but just kind of a very late night and very MLS After Dark kind of vibe game that we're going to be talking about in terms of the West Coast game and also some games in the Western Conference. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys see a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.